It's Monday, September 27th, and this is the iPhoneography podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. And tonight we are going to talk about iPhone 13 because I don't have one, but my wonderful co-host, Dave Podner, well, he doesn't have one either, but his wife has one. And she's been very kind to let him play around with it a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about iPhone 13. So, and it's not the Pro or nothing, but it's just the 13, right, Dave?
Right. And it's more of she puts up with me when I go, "Hey, hon, give me your phone for a second. I want to try something." Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not using it now. Here's my phone.
Yeah.
Hey, kid, can I have your phone? I want to try this real quick here. Okay, take my phone, give it back to me though.
Yeah. So, okay, first, this just came to my mind now. We haven't discussed this yet, but how does it feel form factor wise compared to your iPhone 10? Is it pretty much the same size or
It's
is it different?
yeah, the weird thing, it's pretty much the same size. It feels honestly because Ruth is coming from the 7 Plus. So, and put everyone just as a reminder, that was one with the Touch ID with the big header and the big chin.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that phone was, I believe, 5.5 inches for screen size, and this phone 6.1, this phone's a good amount smaller in size from the outside dimension. And it's not only that, but it's narrower actually. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
because of the bezels or they may have changed the aspect ratio a bit, but it's definitely narrower than her old phone. But it's a little bit shorter from the outside dimension, not the screen dimension.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
So yeah, and that's one thing I noticed when I got my 10s Max compared to my 8 Plus.
right.
It was just a slightly narrower, maybe slightly taller, but it's because of the aspect ratio does
Mm-hmm.
indeed change. Um, and you know, there's no point in talking about the thinnest iPhone ever and all that stuff anymore because ever since Johnny Ive has left Apple, they haven't even, you know,
No,
they haven't even talked like that. So I think that's basically a non-issue. But
right.
um, so just off the cuff, what's your firsthand experience been like with that?
It's really snappy. Now, if you're coming from the 11, or even, I'll even say, if you're coming from the 11 and definitely the 12 to the 13, you're probably not going to notice a day-to-day change.
Yeah.
If you're coming from a 7 Plus or even a 10, you'll notice day-to-day how much quicker it is. Even
Yeah.
doing some things like I did a video and I did some trimming of the video where even on my 10, which it's a 3-year-old phone, but it's not ancient. Um, you do the trimming and then you wait a second or two while it processes and it finishes up. With our 13, you trim, hit save, and it's almost immediate. Boom, you're done. So it is much quicker, much snappier. The screen compared to even mine is much brighter. We both have OLEDs, so I mean they're both OLEDs, um, but it seems much brighter. Of course, it could just be a newer phone, but it's much brighter. It seems clearer. The size of the camera is massive.
Yeah, compared to
Um,
the 10, yeah, for
Compared
sure.
to the 10 and compared to the 7 Plus, it's just completely massive. We were luckily, we did not get an official Apple case, mainly because I know it's always weird when you're spending, you know, I'm trying to remember how much she got. She, like I said, she got the regular 13 256 gig. So if you're paying $700 for a phone, but you're saying, I don't want to pay $50 for a case, but I can find a perfectly good one for 2025. That's the
Yeah.
main reason we didn't go with the official Apple case. So we got a clear case though. So it adds a little bit of thickness, but the reason we went with the clear case, she got the pink phone.
Yeah, you want to
So
show that off.
you
Why
want to
not?
show it off. Yeah. Now we didn't get the MagSafe charger, but the case is MagSafe built in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
if we want to get MagSafe anything, we're set up. So we're a little future proof. Um, it is, like I said, it's really, really snappy in terms of
Yeah.
speed. I mean, seriously. The other thing I did was, this is the first time, because up to now we went to an AT&T store, because that's who we had as the carrier, and we said, okay, we want the latest phone. They set it up there, and we gave them our old phone, and we left with the new one. This time we ordered directly from Apple, and we said, oh, we have AT&T, here's our number. You put in the number and they do it, and then they finish everything, and they actually hook everything up kind of behind the scenes, at least through Apple US.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't have to, basically I didn't have to do anything through AT&T, which was nice.
Yeah.
But I waited to order until Sunday night, not on Friday. That's why Ruth was able to get her regular iPhone 13 on Friday. I have 3 weeks left before I get my Plus.
Yeah. I heard that if you waited even 4 hours past
Oh,
the
yeah,
time that it started,
you're out.
you're into like a couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah. Now, one thing that's nice, and I'm going to hide the case here, but the case, the box it comes in, I love
Nice.
the little details, because we bought stuff from like Amazon where it's this giant box for this itty bitty little thing.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
And this thing, well, here's my 10. So you
Yeah.
can tell it's not much bigger than the phone itself.
Yeah, that's right.
And the way it's opened, there's not plastic wrap or anything. And I know
Yeah.
Apple's different. Apple designs everything.
Yeah.
So the
And
fact
they said
that,
no plastic this year.
yeah, but this basically zip that off and then open up the
Yep.
case, and your phone
Yeah.
fits right there. This also gives you a little,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it's of course recyclable cardboard. So you
Yeah.
just kind of
Nice.
open it up, and it says, okay, just pull this way, and then your phone just comes out. And that's all there. This is all the packaging. That's it.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
Yeah.
that was again, and the same thing with the actual phone case itself. It had a little pull, basically a pull tab built in almost on top and bottom. And like I said, no plastic. You
Mm-hmm.
open up the case, the phone's right there. There's no plastic around it. There's a screen protector you pulled off, but there's no like plastic surrounding it. So you took it off, you took that off, and you had the lightning to USB-C cord. That's something to remember if you're coming from an older phone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You need to get that USB-C brick. Now, luckily, they're cheap. You know, it's I would say make sure we actually got an official Apple one through Amazon, and they were reasonably priced. And for me, the one part you don't want to go too cheap on are the charging bricks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the
Because
cords and stuff.
you're
Yeah.
right. Because anytime you hear of fires, an iPhone catching on fire, it's always they used a third-party cheap brick, and
Yeah.
it just didn't right. Now, if you want to get a third-party brick, that's fine, but go with a big name.
And make sure it's MFI
Right.
approved,
Right.
made for iPhone.
Exactly. Or like I said, even like I got one from Anchor. They're good.
Yeah.
Well, they're a good company. I trust them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, a larger company, don't necessarily go to the dollar store and pick, or
Yeah, that's right.
well, or Five Below. I don't know if you probably don't have it in Canada, but there's a store, Five Below, where everything, well, now they had to raise their prices. Everything's pretty much $6 and under.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have
Including-
stores like that. There's
like Bluetooth,
Dollarama, things
right.
like that. Yeah.
And their stuff in Five Below is nice. I mean, I've gotten headphones there. Admittedly, you're not going to get really nice headphones, but they're decent.
Mhm.
Bluetooth speakers. Again, they're going to run out of power in 30, 40 minutes, but it's $5. You're not paying
Yeah. That's right.
$50. You're not getting great quality, but it's cheap. For a cord, I'm a little more suspicious. So, there's ways you can get where it's not overly expensive. So, yeah, we did buy a brick because we both came with the older iPhones, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we want to make sure that with if Ruth's at work, she can charge it at work. And she's not stuck, even though I know that the 13 Pro battery lives, from what I'm seeing, the testing are like crazy, like
Yeah.
9+ hours of heavy duty load. But even the 13s are good, so she shouldn't have
Yeah.
any
Oh, yeah.
problems at all day at work. But
Yeah.
we got her things where she could plug it in just in case. um but like I said, since I got it from there and I got it home, and I did not install from an iCloud backup this time. I
Yeah.
did
I
the
was gonna
phone to
ask you
phone. Yeah,
what process you use there.
yeah, I did the phone to phone first time I did it. So you basically, and for anyone who hadn't tried it, I put both phones next to each other, turned on the power, and it said, "Oh, you have an old phone right next to you. Do you want to do a direct transfer?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So
Yeah.
it
Why
said,
not?
"Yeah." So it said, "Point the camera at the image on this on the new point the old phone at the new. I forget which way, but you point the camera at it, and it said, 'Oh,
Yeah.
we're just going to, you just want to do a direct transfer?' I said, sure, do that." Okay. And now fortunately he said it's going to take 45 minutes and stay plugged in. So that's the negative. If I would have went from an iCloud backup, it would have taken me, they said, around 15 minutes, and I could start using it and wait for the rest of the download. But
Yeah. Now, did it take that whole 45
it
minutes
took
or
like 40 some minutes. Yeah.
is that right? Because when
Yeah.
I did my 12 Pro Max, it said, something like that. It was
Mhm.
going to take whatever, but it really only
Well,
took about half the time.
you were going from an 8 plus.
No, I went from my 10s Max to
Okay. You,
the
okay. Well, let's see. Okay. So you went from a 10s Max to an 11
to the 12,
to the 12. I'm
12 Pro
sorry. To
Max.
the
Yeah.
12. Yeah. She was going from a 7.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're
Yeah.
talking a much slower chip, slower, however
That
they're
would have
connecting up between the two.
the A9 chip, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
think.
it's
Yeah.
it's pretty old.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I
Well,
I,
all right. Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
part of it too. And like I say, I think they're connecting up by Bluetooth. So
Yeah,
that's
probably.
older Bluetooth. That's not even the new one that my 10 would have.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's one of the reasons why it took so long. But
Yep.
it
Yep.
was seamless. It was easy and seamless if it just took a while. Which
Yeah.
we were like, okay, we're at home. We said, okay, we both said we're going to set aside some time to upload this, or I mean, not this transfer. So it isn't like, oh, we have dinner in a half an hour, let's set up a new phone. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to be home for a couple hours, we'll might as well do this now, then we can work on it, and do what we need to do. So setup was quick and easy. There is some adjustment, probably for you there wouldn't be, or anyone with like an 11 later, for the new camera setup, because the camera is significantly different from the 7, 8, and 10s to the new camera.
You mean like the interface?
The interface, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a little getting used to. So just to be clear, with that transfer that you did,
Yeah.
that was photos, contacts, that was
Everything.
everything on her 7 Plus went
Everything.
over to the 13.
Yep. And that's what
And
made it
that even
wonderful.
includes any like
Logins,
any
passwords.
any text
Yep.
shortcuts and stuff. Yeah, that's
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the login and passwords, where you don't have to go, oh, okay, I set up a Google login 4 years ago, and now I got to go into my settings and try to figure out where that is, or save it. Everything was saved.
Yeah.
Everything was saved.
Yeah.
And then once it was done transferring, the old phone said, oh, we're done transferring. Do you want me to erase everything? And erase the old? I said, okay, yeah. And so the old phone was completely erased. And we're just waiting for the box from Apple to send in for the trade-in.
Oh, right on.
So
Yeah.
that was good. And the funny thing is, in the middle of the process, Ruth's mom called and the new phone answered.
Wow, really?
So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. But even with the old phone, because they say, well, you have to do this. And it said it did it automatically. So it removed it from the Find My iPhone, wiped it all clean, removed it from everything else. It was automatic. It literally
that's
could
cool.
not be easier. Could not be easier.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk but really about, the operating system,
Right.
which, is iOS 15 on the new devices.
Mhm.
We will probably get into some of that stuff in future shows, but let's get to the meat and potatoes of this
Yep.
thing, the cameras.
The cameras. And now, like I said, this is a good amount of difference. Now, just to remind everyone, with the non-pros, there's no zoom. So you get
Right.
the
Yeah.
wide and the ultra wide. One thing I noticed, the ultra wide does have a bit, the pictures don't necessarily bow out, but especially when you're, because this is something that's nice under, I don't know if this is iOS 15 or just the newer phones, doing the 16:9 shots with the ultra wide. So you're not only getting the, ultra wide zoom out, you're getting the wide picture. So you can
Hmm.
get everything in there. But the corner, but as you're getting the picture in there, it's almost a little vertigo, as it feels like you're like, whoa, everything feels
Because
like
the
it's
camera
moving a little bit.
interface is overlaid over top of the image, right?
Right, right. And
Yeah.
also the outside of the image does, it still has a little bit of a, not necessarily a bow to the image, but it feels weird.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm actually going to share some photos here that I did. Now I took photos because the biggest change was the cinemaramic for us, the video,
Yeah.
the upgrade into portrait mode, which is nice. With the even with the non-pro, you don't have to zoom in anymore for portrait. Where before with her old camera and my 10, portrait mode is under the zoom.
Yeah.
So you have to like, okay, I have to now back up way back here if I want to do portrait mode. But because you're doing the regular and ultra wide, you're just using the wide for that. So that's one thing that's different. And I wanted to test it for low light, obviously, because that's what everyone tests, because that's the big jump. And very, very bright. In terms of, you know, would really bright light blow out images?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because that's something else to really watch on. So I went to the darkest, and I'm going to share my screen here. So let me go to.
Actually, before you do that,
Oh,
hold on
okay.
one
Sorry.
second.
Okay. No problem. Let me kill that.
I
Okay.
am going to have a little sip of water here,
Oh, ah.
and a little shout out to Shane Mawson, you bloody legend. And if you're only listening, you're going to have to catch the video to see this.
And also check out Shane's video about going out and taking some gorgeous pictures of
Oh,
the Milky
yeah.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
He is a
my.
bloody legend, I tell you.
Oh, that is that. I mean, your pictures. Honestly, your pictures were amazing too, Greg. That you posted on Instagram.
Oh, thanks.
They were really, really good, and I love the fact that he does have where we necessarily don't have the experience with the other camera phones.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's got the S21 Ultra and the
Right.
Huawei
Yeah.
P40 Pro and things like that.
Exactly.
Sure. So yeah,
Where he even
and
said that those were better for the stars per se than the iPhone
yeah,
13 Pro. But the foreground was like, yeah, I mean, I could tell he really was like, this is amazing. This car, which is
yeah.
being lit off on the side, is,
By his 12 Pro Max, that's
yeah.
all he used to light it.
He's like, it's sharp and it's clear and the sky looks amazing. This is just a great shot. And it's all in one. And the Samsung may do better on the sky, but you're not going to get a better overall type shot. I'm like,
Yeah, that's right. So yeah.
yeah.
I mean, cheers, Shane.
Oh yeah, definitely a shout out to him. So I went and let me know if you're ready to share.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So this is directly from my iCloud photos. Now I will say this, I'm on my work PC. So we're talking, of course, not the highest resolution screen in the world. Now it's not low, it's not horrible. I'm not complaining about my work computer. I never want to complain about my work computer.
That's right.
Especially I don't want it to die on me, but it's not necessarily an iMac 5K display.
Yeah.
So I went to the darkest room in the house, the bathroom. Especially our downstairs bathroom, which does not have a um, doesn't have a window.
Hmm.
So I took a picture with my 10, and it's still downloading. Okay, so that's not going
There
to
we
get much
go.
better. So that's as good as it got. The door was cracked open a bit,
Yeah.
but you can tell how dark it is there. So you can see the little hanging display we have there,
Hmm.
and the back of the toilet, and it's not. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
again,
in all fairness to your old phone, it does not
right,
have night mode,
right,
right?
right, and it's
So,
got EDB, and it's got the EDB little camera
right. Yeah.
compared to the new one. So then I did a shot with a 3-second exposure. Now, by default, it does 3 second. You
Hmm.
can manually push it up to 10 handheld, but
Yeah.
unless you do that, you're only going to be stuck with the 3. So
Hmm.
exact same shot, exact
Yeah.
same
Look at that, eh?
everything. And it's like,
That's prime example of night and day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you can actually see a shadow on the back wall here by
Yeah.
the fabric painting there on the left, and you can see
Hmm.
how much clearer. Then I went back a little bit more and did a shot a little further back again, starting off with my 10 here, and you can tell, really dark here. And then I did a 10-second exposure handheld, and it's like I
Yeah.
turned a light on. And this is the exact same exact the door was cracked a little bit just so I could see and not trip and fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no wind, there's no other light in here other than what's creaking through like a couple inch crack in the door being open. And okay, yes, not exactly crisp, but this is handheld 10-second exposure. And we're talking pitch dark and just how well it turns out.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this is
That's a
yeah,
big change.
yeah, that is a major difference. Now, I did do a shot here. My front of my house faces west, which is always a big problem because in the afternoon, you have the sun beating in directly into the window,
Hmm.
which, you basically get blown out images if you're trying to take pictures, let's say, of either of our dogs, which are white, or our two cats who are mostly have a lot of white fur on them. So you
Hmm.
got to, bright sunlight. And this was with the ultra wide. Now, I'll say this, the ultra wide on the non pro, you do notice it is not as good as the wide.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is a bit of a difference in the
There is
aperture.
a massive difference. I think because now in the pro, there's not much of a difference. It's like 1.5 to 1.8.
Oh yeah.
In the non pro, it's 1.6 to 2.4.
Okay.
So computationally, it still does a great job, but you can see here with the ultra wide, waiting for it to download. There we go. That you can still, even though you can see how bright the sunlight coming in is, you can see where I mean about the ultra wide. It looks kind of like you're looking down a hole here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the room does not have that feeling of, the depth perception.
Vastness.
No,
Yeah.
no. But if you see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Nope. Let's see if I can. No, I can't zoom in, unfortunately. Let's see if I can make that. There we go. That helps a little bit. So you can see Rosie here. You can see her white fur in the sun there.
Yeah.
Even though
And you can still see the detail.
you can still see the detail, and you can see, even though the sky's blown out per se, you can see the house across the street and the trees across the street.
Hmm.
Where if I took pictures like this in the past with my 10, the entire window is blown out.
Yeah.
Unless I do
Yeah.
some really, really heavy editing. And you can even see Belle here, who's more in a shaded area here on the couch. You can still see detail on her, and you can see the part that's in the shade is not completely dark. And even the parts that's in the shade, like on Rosie here, and I'm sorry for anyone who's doing audio, but I'll try to describe as much as I can. But the shaded area, you can see her two different colors. You can see her brown
Yeah.
versus her black.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does, and this was just a straight. I just did it. I didn't do the only editing I did here was a little bit on the window, but nothing anywhere else, nowhere
Yeah.
else.
So
And
you must have used Snapseed, did you?
no,
Or Lightroom?
I actually did touch retouch.
Oh, okay.
I noticed something on the window,
Oh, okay.
and I removed it.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, you so
no,
basically it's
it's
unedited other
basically
than like
unedited. Yeah,
for lighting and
yeah,
contrast and all that stuff. It's
yep.
yeah, okay.
And you can even see the stuff on the shelves here. You know, there's a
Oh yeah.
natural shadow to it, but you can still see what's there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just
that's impressive.
how it turned out really well. And now this was a portrait mode I did of Charlie. I'm sorry, no, this is just a regular shot. This wasn't portrait. You can see him moving there.
Yeah.
And this is cropped a little bit, but other than cropping, there's no editing on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Wow.
love the look in his eyes that are caught,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
he's just hanging out on the side of the couch, kind of like, you know, he's half covered with a
Yeah.
blanket there. And
And
he's
you can
just
see the, the studs in the leather, in the
mhm,
design around in the leather there around the end
yep,
of it.
yep. And the
You can still
stitching
see, and
there.
that's dark, shaded area, shadowy
Yep,
area
yep,
that you could still see that detail in it. So yeah, that's
yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
And
And
and the white along the top of his head's not blown out at all.
no, no, you can see the detail in his fur.
Yeah.
And there, just because of how close I was, you have the natural bokeh
Mm-hmm.
where you look at
Yeah.
his paw and the back's kind of blurry. That and you can see his whiskers there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Yeah.
wasn't portrait mode. That was
That is
more just taking it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Now, of course, I did do a shot at dusk, and I tried doing a shot at night. So these two were handheld. I did do some editing on here,
Mm-hmm.
but this was with the wide. This is literally just me out my front door looking across the street. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming one of these is Venus.
I think it's the one in the lower left.
Okay. And I
Is
don't know what that one is.
is that's the
This is
24th, and
looking west. This is
I was
looking
out
almost
that
directly
night.
west. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I was out that night shooting, and I saw those two as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Venus in the lower left.
Okay. So yeah, that's looking almost due west. You
Mm-hmm.
can see the sun. Now, then I did the exact same shot with the ultra wide. And you can tell it's, first of all, how much it takes in, but unfortunately, you can tell that it's just not that great. And you can
Yeah.
see there's actually banding, and the sky is not banded. The
Right.
sky was a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
smooth gradient, where here you can actually, now, admittedly, the banding looks nice and artistic, you know,
Yeah.
so it has a nice look to it, but yeah. And then I try to do a couple shots where I basically took the camera, went out to my backyard. I didn't want to necessarily put a tripod up because it was kind of dark. So I didn't want to do necessarily just handheld. There's a couple of handheld shots. So what I did here was I took a chair, put the phone on the chair,
Mm-hmm.
upside down, so it'd be pointing up. So, and made it
Yep.
where the shutter button would be off on the edge there.
Oh, okay.
Made sure it was stable, hit the button,
Mm-hmm.
and let it go for 30 seconds.
Nice.
Now, I live like, let's say 15 miles away from the center of downtown Pittsburgh, but I'm still in suburbs with a good amount of light pollution.
Yeah.
So I understand I'm not going to get the pristine, wonderful look, but this is still an unedited shot. So this is just how it came out of the camera.
And there's still a lot of stars in that
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah. And that's a lot more stars than I saw. So at first, my first thought was, is this picking up noise? But then I stayed out there a little bit longer and like, no, I can almost see some of these stars.
Hmm.
So what I did is I did two different edits. I went into Polar and I went to Lightroom mobile just to see. And I honestly, just because it was a couple days ago and I've had a couple nasty days. I kind of
Yeah.
forget which one I did in which, but this is the edited photo. And
Yeah. That's
I wish I could say that was the Milky Way, but it's the wrong direction. And I think it's just a lot of the light pollution I couldn't get rid of. It looks nice and artistic, so I'm willing to take it.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I
um,
mean, for I'm gonna just say an in town
yeah,
shot of the stars is
yeah,
pretty darn impressive.
yeah, yeah. And this is the other edit I had here.
Yeah, I'm gonna think that that's the Lightroom edit because I think Lightroom just does I've experimented a little bit in the last
Yeah,
few days, and I think Lightroom just does a little better job of these types of photos.
yeah. So I mean, now I tried to see how the portrait would look,
Hmm.
and you can tell here's Charlie again, and it does a pretty good job. I mean, he is kind of a fuzzy dog here.
Yeah,
Um, it really focused heavy on his face without and his one paw kind. Well, actually, I'm sorry. The thing that's in focus on the bottom right is Belle's tail, our other dog.
oh yeah, okay.
She's a Westie, so she's got the feathery fur there, where
Hmm.
Charlie has the kind of kinky curly fur.
Yeah,
But you can tell it picks up the sharp there, and it's a little bit blurry around the edges. It's not like a perfect edge, but
right.
it
Yeah.
still turned out pretty good there. And I didn't try macro because, of course, non-pros don't have macro. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's only with the pros because the better ultra wide lens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but this is just me trying to get this was me using Camera Plus 2's macro mode.
Okay.
So this was just trying to get a macro shot. And now it looks a little grainy here. Again, it looks much sharper on the phone. I'll say this, but it's still,
Yeah.
you know, picked up pretty good on a little leaf. And you can
Yeah,
kind of
and
tell,
it's got the lights and shadows
yeah,
pretty nice. Like,
yeah, especially how close I
there's
had
a
to get
hole in the
that.
leaf. There's a hole in the leaf, and you're looking
Right,
through at the fabric in behind, and you can still see the
right,
detail.
right, and you can see the size of the weave there is pretty small too.
Yeah, yeah.
So that turned out pretty good. Now for the very bright shot, I literally took this shot directly into the sun. You can tell it's directly into.
Oh yeah.
This
There's
is
the sun, large as
yeah,
life.
yeah. There's the sun and no editing in this again.
And
Almost no clouds in the sky.
the lens flare, and I'm not talking the little green dot, but I'm talking like the lens
The big
flare
hunker, yeah.
is very, very minimal compared to what
All
it
right,
used to be.
right. Now I would say this. I've seen other reviews where it's still an issue,
Yeah. Now,
but
the so iOS 15 does have a feature and it only works in live photos where the little
right.
green dot, if it was in a if it was just in a plain area with no detail, it actually would have taken that out
Yeah, okay.
by itself. So
Yeah.
something to try, Dave, is go out the front door on a sunny day like that again and make the green dot appear up in the sky itself, and you'll
Right.
see that when you take the photo with a
It'll
live
go
photo,
away.
it's gone. Yeah.
Well, to tell you how sunny it was, I did a selfie
Yeah.
just to see how it would handle skin tone um, right
And
in the
that looks
direct
pretty darn
sun.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you can see where I'm barely squinting but I mean, you
Hmm.
can, and again, it picked up, yeah, you can see I'm like really bright.
Yeah.
Um, You can see the wonderful gray hair in my head.
Oh, you got nothing compared to me, man.
Well, I know, but you see what I'm saying. It. You can actually see a lot of detail for the, you know,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the
Like,
amount of really direct bright light that you're getting.
and the glare that would be on, some of your facial features like the forehead, the nose,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, it's
There's just a
down to a
little,
minimum,
yeah,
and
just a
it's
little
almost
bit on the tip.
non-existent on your forehead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit on the tip of the nose there. Try to get a couple other photos here. There we go. Now this one is, I would say, pretty heavily edited, I'll say. Just because of the way it was just a shot, again, looking west with this ornamental grass in the foreground here. It's just one of the photos I tend to take year after year,
Oh
just
yeah.
because of the way that the angle the sun goes right into the grass and just how well it works there. Now, one thing I did pick up here, and now just like all the other iPhones that existed, if you're doing a video, cinematic video, you can't do this. But non-cinematic video, they do have the button to take a photo while you're taking a video.
Okay, yeah.
So I took this shot, and again, waiting for it to, there we go, while taking a video. That's why it's a little on the blurry side.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just like the way the tree here with its whatever's coming down,
Hmm.
the golden glow there on the back hill.
Yeah. Wow, the
And
color change for you is pretty crazy right now, isn't it?
well, no, this is just the tree's green. It's just the way and I'm going to play the video here. It's just the way the sunlight's coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just the way
Oh
it was
yeah,
just gold.
okay.
It was
Yeah.
golden hour. It was right at golden
Okay.
hour.
Oh
And
yeah.
but it's just the way that hit that perfectly there, had a golden glow on the
Okay.
tree. And it was like, that's gorgeous up there.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I will say this with the sound too, the audio is amazing.
Yeah.
The audio you pick up is just so clear and good. It is so much better than existing phones that I've had experience with. Now, this
Hmm.
is my test with cinematic. So you have Leo there at the top of the stairs, and you can see, oh, you can see, okay, had a little problem with the bars in the front there, but you can
Yeah.
see he's in focus there, and the background's nice and blurry.
Hmm. So listeners
And
of the show, we're,
yep,
we're looking at Dave's cat, and
yep,
so you're basically coming down the stairs, and
right.
there's a like a wrought iron railing,
Mm-hmm.
and the cat's just standing on the other side of that, and so the railing is kind of maybe giving you a little bit of trouble with it, but other than that though, the cat's in focus, and then the
Yep.
background's got a nice blur to it.
And there's going to.
So when you see this on YouTube, folks, you're going to see, um, the video that Dave is playing right
Yeah.
now is kind of choppy, but it's because it's playing from iCloud on the
Right.
web,
Right.
not on
Right.
not on his computer.
Right. And it's a lot better. Now, the last night ones I want to show are ones I took from my front. The first one was, again, using put the phone down on a flat surface and let it do its thing. Now, when I get my
Mhm.
phone, I'll be able to do it through the shutter feature on my Apple Watch.
Right.
But Ruth doesn't have an Apple Watch attached to hers. Plus, it would have to be her watch, not my watch. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and again, this was the edited. This was a
Okay,
30-second
cool.
edited. So you have the streak, and this also shows that you are taking multiple photos and stacking them, because you see the clouds are streaky here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can see the
And
stars kind of in the background there, and it just turned out really well.
yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
And the last one here, now this, I'll show you the unedited and edited. This is, I believe, a 30-second shot of my front steps. And the only light here is from the house, but we didn't have any external lights on. This is just,
Wow.
so there's a street light that's out there on the street, and just the light coming from the windows from the inside to the outside.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
so it's casting a nice warm glow to
mhm,
the post or the light post on the front
yeah,
step, and the sky is very clear.
yeah,
You can see the clouds nicely. You can see the stars in the sky
hmm,
still. Yeah, and even the lights in the neighbors' houses across the street, you can see them, and they're
yeah,
not overblowing anything. Like they're
no,
not for 30 seconds. They're not blown out or anything. You can still
yeah,
see right where your mouse is. You can see the
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 pattern in the door.
pattern on the window of the door. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Now, if you, I did some editing on that one to make the sky just a tidge darker,
Yeah.
so you can see I did a little boosting of color here, and but it's just like I said, it for night photos and just for like straight day to day photos, it turns out really, really well.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
last one. These are photos we just kind of took when we're out today. Not edited. We just
Hmm.
had to go out to pick up some things. And like I said, this is just a little, I think this was, yeah, this is the wide. I forget if this is the wide or the ultra wide, to be honest. I think it's just a regular wide, but
I'm gonna say it looks like the wide. Yeah.
yeah.
The
But
wide.
again, this is one of our unusual, very bright, sunny days in Pittsburgh. We don't get these very often. We
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
them. We
Right.
enjoy them when they happen. Um,
Yeah.
but you can see how bright it is here, but it's picking up all the colors in the shade. The yellow and green.
Yeah.
You have the very bright, colorful chairs, and you have
And
the stalks. And go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
there's though I was just gonna say there's a green chair with the lawn, like the grass in the background, and you can see every detail in the green chair,
Hmm.
even though it's very close to the color of the grass. I mean,
Yeah.
it does a good job of picking up that detail.
So yeah, it's just, again, most everything can do bright, bright colors really well.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, one last one here, and this is just me testing. Now, these are both Ruth's phone.
Hmm.
I took a photo of the metals that are behind me. And this is a handheld 10-second exposure. The first one is with night mode turned off. So this was taken
Okay.
tonight. This is taken tonight. There was just a sliver of sun left. It's right after sunset, so you just have that little bit of light, but that was the
Hmm.
only light in the room. So you can see dark.
Well, it's dark, but I mean, you
It's
can
dark.
tell that it's a rack full of metals. Yeah.
Right, right. And then I turned night mode on 10 seconds. Now, admittedly, I was not able to keep it because I was kind of bracing it myself here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was not as steady as it should have been. But
Wow.
yeah, the fact that, now, admittedly, like I said, it's blurry. I blame that on myself because I could tell, with night mode,
And
you
it
get
was
the
10
little
seconds,
crosshair.
right?
Yeah, you get the
Yeah.
little crosshairs that show when you're moving. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is
It's sometimes hard to keep them intact.
kind of a tight area here. So we got 4 or 5 feet between where I was holding the camera and where the item was.
Hmm.
So, I could, if I could back up more and hold and kind of brace myself, that'd be better.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I
you can
mean, hey, you
tell.
were just testing it too, right? It's not like
Exactly,
you're,
exactly. If I was doing something super, super serious, that would be, different.
yeah.
But just the fact that, just again, the cinematic turns out good. I know, like I said, I know there's going to be people who are professional reviewers, which I understand their experience, who are going to poo-poo it. Similar to people who said portrait mode when it came out 4 years ago, 5 years ago, how many years it was, they were like, well, that's not a proper portrait. It doesn't compare to an SLR. It doesn't compare
Oh,
to,
yeah.
it doesn't compare to my DSLR. It doesn't compare to this. And the answer is obviously, but the one thing, and it's kind of weird to say this because this is still an expensive thing.
Hmm.
Now, if you push it out and finance it, it's not too much per month. If you're paying one lump sum, especially for you, it's a lot of money.
Sure,
Uh,
yeah.
After our trade-in, Ruth's phone's going to be $13 a month, admittedly for 3 years.
Yeah,
So
still $13 a month.
$13 a
That's
month.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. It's like, okay, so we just don't go out to eat one day a week,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
will have
really,
both
or
for
you don't
yeah,
get a coffee a couple of days or whatever. Yeah,
and that's pretty much pays for the phone. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, like I said, it's $13 a month for hers. Mine, because my trade-in's worth, even though I'm getting the Pro Max, my trade-in is worth more, and I think they offered more rebate. So my phone and her phone will be basically the same, around $13-14 each per month. But
yeah,
again, that's still, it's reasonable. And for something where you're not paying, I don't know if those special deals are going to be there forever or ever. I think they're
yeah,
trying to spike the numbers really high now. But you figure that they are, for you're bringing, instead of, I need this to do, like before, where if I wanted to do a portrait mode, you either had to have a special thing or you need, now it's just, and honestly, with Android phones or even cheaper ones that can do portrait mode now.
yeah.
Cinematic mode, now and it's not just portrait mode for video, but it's, if you want a shorthand, it's portrait mode for video. It's
Pretty much,
opening,
yeah.
it's opening up for now hundreds of millions of people. I think we can say, given the sales of iPhone, hundreds of millions of people are going to be able to do portrait mode for iPhone. I mean, not portrait mode, but
Hmm.
cinematic mode videos now.
Yeah,
And you're going to see things like baseball games, um, parties, Christmas, like I said, birthday parties, graduation parties, where you'll be able to do
yeah,
things with cinematic mode and it'll look so much better than a straight video. And it will take no effort on the person who's doing the photo shooting.
yeah. And on the note of cinematic mode, Shane Moston did a video on, just a quick video
Mhm.
just to demonstrate cinematic mode. He's got the 13 Pro Max, and the reason he did that video is because he wanted to show people what it was like for real world users. And just like you did with the cat,
Mhm.
by the stairway there. And when Apple demonstrates this stuff, they're not doing it like real world users. They're doing it like professional movie sets and all this other
Mhm.
nonsense. I mean, sure, it really showcases the technology, and it showcases it very well, and it makes you want to, maybe go out and do that kind of work. But what I liked about, the videos that you showed me and the stuff from Shane is that it's just what the average person is going to do, and it shows you just how that works for the
Mhm.
average person. And yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, really great. Um, that particular feature wouldn't be enough for me to upgrade, but I
No,
mean,
no.
I'm not going to upgrade. So,
Right.
um, uh, I don't know. I mean, it's just okay at best. But you know what? Just like portrait mode, I think it's going to improve.
Yeah.
With
Because it's a
updates going
software,
forward.
because it's
Sure,
hardware and
exactly,
software, they can improve the software. But also,
exactly.
you have to almost compare it against nothing. You didn't have that ability to before.
Well,
Built
you
in,
did
built in, I
with
should say
with
built
well,
in,
not built in, but
built
with
in. Yeah.
Focus Live.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, they must be just so mad at Apple right now because their Focus Live app just got Sherlocked. And
To a point. But if you can add
yeah,
addition, well, it's same thing with like the Focus camera app.
yeah.
It
Hmm.
can do more than just what's built in with portrait mode.
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure.
so I mean, and I know people complain that Apple's built-in stuff doesn't do a lot compared to, let's say, like Samsung or like some of the Google cameras, you know.
Mhm.
That's because Apple tends to give this is going to be good enough for 90% of the people 90% of the time.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
if anyone wants anything more, there's apps for that. So that's
Yeah.
how Apple it's kind of like the calendar. The calendar is good enough for most people, but if you want a full blown out calendar without going to Outlook or Gmail count or Google Calendar,
Mhm.
Fantastical.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
things a
There's
lot more there and a lot more there, but it gets you the basics. And honestly, and it's kind of like, oh, you just want to be able to pick this up and use it without having to study a guide.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
same thing with the camera. Now, like I said, I we had to go over the new camera UI for like, she's like,
Yep.
okay, where's the self timer at? Because before the timer on the
Was up
old
across
phone
the top, was it not?
was atop. Yeah, it was like it's
Yeah.
literally right there.
Yeah. Right there. Yep.
Now it isn't. Now, if you want the timer, you have to hit the little down arrow to expand out down below and then pick the timer there. But that's
Yeah.
also where you can go from square to 4/3 to 16 by 9, where before you just went to, you know, if you wanted to change you wanted to do square, oh, you just went down the bottom and just hit square down here. But now they don't have that. Now it's not a separate mode, it's just a separate option.
Yeah.
So,
And they've got exposure compensation in there and,
right.
other things. I think even the, excuse me, the night mode stuff, you hit
Mm-hmm.
the night mode up at the top, but then you can
Right.
adjust the time,
Down below.
in that section there. Yeah.
Right. So I
So,
mean, that's some getting used to. And like I said, she's going from Touch ID to Face ID. So it's like for Apple Pay, she's used to hitting the putting her thumb down.
yeah.
So she was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna order some coffee, and we'll just go through." And she's even
Yep.
it's muscle memory. It's like, okay, and I'm gonna. Oh, wait a minute, no, I don't do that. Okay, where
Yeah.
do I? Okay, I do it. I click this button on the side, and look, okay, and her Face ID on hers I know it changed on the 10s. It went from the 10s. It went quick. It got a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And same thing with the now comparing to my Face ID to her Face ID, it is so much quicker now in
Yeah.
terms of recognizing the face and boom, so much quicker.
Yeah. And I find that now that they've got things working with the watch, if you have an Apple Watch, even if you have a mask on, the Face
Mm-hmm.
ID, I mean, with the watch, I mean, it works seamlessly. So,
Yeah.
um, so those are some pretty good first impressions, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say, like, okay, so is Ruth happy with it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all that matters in this one.
Very true. Very true.
um, but now we I think we talked about this a little bit before, but um, upgrading to even just the 13, because that's all you've had experience
Yeah.
with so far. You're getting the 13 Pro Max, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be here, a couple 3 weeks or so, or whatever. And we'll definitely talk about that
Oh yeah.
when you get it. But with the 13, probably wouldn't upgrade from the 12,
Oh
but
no.
anything from the 11 maybe on back, would you say would be a pretty
Yeah.
decent upgrade?
I
And
would
now
say
let's just talk
definitely
about the
10s.
camera system.
Definitely 10s.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
10s.
And even I can attest to that, because I
Yeah.
still have my 10s and I still use it. It's my beta machine, um but so just photographically though, probably anything from the 11 on back would be it would
Yeah.
probably be a
The
decent
11,
upgrade
the
if
11's borderline. The
yeah.
11 for me would be borderline. Depends on, to me, if you're being intensive about photos and not just but you're going to go for the pro.
Right. Yeah.
Because unlike last year, for me, the big change, because the wide is pretty, well, I would say, yeah, you're going to get a big change, especially with night. So you're going to see a big difference. For me, the difference between the pro and the non-pro, the wides are pretty close to the same. They're just a tidge difference. the ultra wide on the Pro is so much better.
Yeah, because the ultra
And the
wide on the
fact,
13 is still 2.4. So
right. And but the having the telephoto, even though the digital zoom is not bad, we
mhm.
have had to use a digital zoom just to frame some things where we couldn't physically get closer.
Yeah,
Um, Still looks good. It still looks
yeah,
good on the it's not, I mean, obviously you can tell it's digital, but it still looks
yeah.
pretty good. It still looks pretty good.
It's not something that you would use if you want to take a picture for a, like, to blow up and put on the wall or something. But I mean,
Exactly.
for
Sharing online,
sharing
great.
online, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially since very
So
few people look, let's say if your main way of sharing, even though Instagram doesn't want us to do this, it's still Instagram. I could say almost no one looks at Instagram on the web.
the numbers would be so small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most people look at it. I mean, the biggest thing you're going to look at it on is an iPad or a tablet.
even though it's not an iPad app,
Exactly.
which is stupid, but
For this many years later. Yes. So most people are looking at Instagram on their phone. So even at biggest, you're talking, even an Android phone with
mhm,
the biggest, you're still talking a sub 7-inch screen.
yeah,
So, it's still going to be good. And, you know, like I said, for me going with the Pro, I'm curious to see the difference. I
yeah,
know we also talked that on the Artful iPhone photography group on MeWe, people are
mhm.
posting their macro shots taken
Yes,
on their Pros. And those macro shots are amazing, especially you're considering that the way you're just taking a macro shot is you're just getting close and it's automatically switching to the ultra wide camera and taking the macro automatically.
yeah,
So
and
there's,
I'm
there's
sharing my screen to show that right now.
yeah,
Dwight B. I don't know what his last name is, but he just goes by Dwight B. On the Artful iPhoneography community on MeWe, has his 13 Pro, and he's put on some macro shots.
yeah.
And you know what? I poo-pooed Apple's macro stuff from their announcement,
Mm-hmm.
because quite frankly, whoever took them, there was a couple of them were okay, but
They
then
were
there's
not that
some of
great.
them, like the one of the blueberries, just
Yeah,
atrocious, because it was like it was okay in the center, and then the further you got to the edges of the frame, it
it
just
was
stretched
blurry.
them.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen a hint of that in some people's macro stuff, but for the most part, it's actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't think you'll ever get as good as having like an external lens, whether it's
No.
a clip on or in a case or whatever. Um, but you're just not going to beat glass when it comes to macro. But for just being able to take your phone and go right up to something and take a
Mm-hmm.
shot of it real close, and these things, this gets you so close, like it's like within a half inch probably. um it doesn't do that bad.
No. No. I mean, I think it's when this is the kind of weird to me is that Apple used centimeters in the announcement.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
said once you get within 10 centimeters, down to 2 centimeters.
Hmm.
So for those of us imperialist,
Yeah,
uh,
so that's basically 5 inches
is
down
down
to
to an
just
inch,
just under an inch.
just under an
Yeah,
inch. Yeah. So, where before now you again, you're just all you have to do is just get your camera close to it. Now, admittedly, the switch is hard and you can't unswitch it. It's automatic for now. They're going to do a
right.
software update because they've had a lot of people complain about it. But all you gotta do is get close, you'll see it switch, and then boom, you got macro mode.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's just some of the shots are just really good. Now, the only way I could see now, I don't think Apple's going to do this because of space and cost reasons. Unless I know there are phones out there with macro lenses built in,
Oh yeah. Okay.
but they're also like 2 megapixel.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not
And
the high res. So unless Apple wants to have a separate macro only high resolution only used for macro lens, which again I don't see them doing. I just don't see them
mhm,
doing because you're adding a lot of complexity. You're adding another lens. You're adding a whole nother thing on top of the regular lens just for
yeah.
macro. And I see macro, unfortunately, still see it as an edge case, and I don't see Apple adding it outside of how they're doing it now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. You know, and you know what? If I can offer anyone that's using the macro feature any advice, tap to focus, because I've seen some pictures where maybe the wrong thing is in
Right.
focus.
Well, I will say this: I've read people who used it. Tap to
Mhm.
focus doesn't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the built-in macro, tap to focus does not work.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
crazy bad.
because it just automatically focuses. So I imagine you can move back and forth and move left, right, up, or down,
Yeah.
to get it to focus on the right thing. But there is no tap to focus, unfortunately, in
Oh,
macro.
wow.
Yeah. So that's, again, we're talking, this is tends to be Apple's thing of
Oh, okay,
for
so
most of the time it'll work, but not all the time.
do you know, Dave, if it's just going to look at the center of the frame then, and that's what it's going to use to focus, or does it actually try to pick out
I
something
think
that
it
it
tries
thinks?
to, yeah, I think it tries to pick out what it can focus on.
Okay.
But let's say you want to focus on something on the bottom and not on the top,
Yeah.
it won't work.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, I mean the picture here with the ants is just crazy.
Yeah. Maybe you can see in the top right corner.
Yeah,
So this. I'm not sure what kind of flower this is, um,
honestly,
but
not
it's
sure.
yeah. I'm not sure,
And you can see
but there's
the ants are a little blurry too.
yeah. Now that being said, I think I think for the most part they're in behind this one petal that
Right,
looks like it's the light's kind of shining. I don't know. It's
right.
hard to say.
Yeah,
But
and like I
yeah,
said,
they're a little blurry.
but like I said, it's not professional level, and the answer to that
Oh
is
no.
duh.
Yeah.
This is without any attachment. This is just going up, and you're walking and you see something, you just bend over to get a macro shot, and it's still pretty darn amazing.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
So on Dwight's post here on this one here,
yeah,
I went through. I think there was 17 photos that he posted from the macro, and this is the very first shot he took with the macro. It's the one we have of the ants, and there's the almost like a light emitting from the flower, but I think it's just reflecting or something.
mm-hmm.
And he says, my first shot with the 13 Pro Max in macro, no tripod. I could have gotten closer. I was sort of walking, so it was a quick shot. And he says, edited in Visco, starting with the AL2 filter. So Visco users will likely know what that means, but I'm not a Visco user. But I liked how the flower appears to be generating its own energy with the light.
Yeah,
So I asked him in a comment, what are your thoughts on the new camera system? So his response was, just starting out, haven't done any comparisons. The 3x zoom is great. So that's like the 77 millimeter equivalent, and can't wait to get a few landscape shots and some lower light shots.
mm-hmm.
So we'll look for more stuff from Dwight on that.
Yep.
And but yeah, it's um, like I say, I kind of poo-pooed the macro when we talked about the announcement, when the three of us got together and we're talking about that. And I'm kind of eating a few of my words now, because some of the macros I've seen are pretty darn good.
Yeah,
I think you just have to be careful when you're setting up excuse me, when you're setting up the shot, and uh, just uh, watch where it focuses. If it doesn't focus where you want, maybe pull back and go back in again, type of thing.
Mhm.
But you know what? For a feature that is just built in, and I mean, it's bound to improve too, right? Just like the
Right.
cinematic video, and just like portrait mode did back in
Well,
when it came out.
like you said, since it is um, software, and they're going to make it, if you're going to make changes already in 15.1.
Yeah.
So
Oh, for
obviously, if
sure.
they can make changes that way. Now, I just checked out the subreddit for iPhoneography. And let me share my screen real quick here.
Hmm.
And this leaf picture is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can see there's some kind of webbing or something
Yeah.
in the middle there.
Yeah.
And now you can tell that certain things are in and out of focus, but
And you know what though? That's partly due to the fact that they're either closer to or further away from the point of focus, right?
right,
I mean,
right.
you get that with the best of lenses you could put
Mm-hmm.
on your phone. So, um, that's not all that bad.
Yeah. And I
but
would say,
but yeah.
also just checking out like subreddits like this or Facebook groups, you can see how people some of the photos people took. And now that's the other thing is, like I said, with Ruth's camera, I don't have Pro Raw.
Right.
So I was kind of looking for it because I thought I may have it on the new phones, but no. So I have to wait on my Pro to actually test out Pro Raw to
Hmm.
see,
Yeah.
in terms of especially the night modes and some of the other edge cases where you're kind of really pushing the physics.
Yep.
If I can go Pro Raw, go and edit there and see how that turns out versus just the base one or just the base,
Yeah.
taking a JPEG. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to turn out too.
Yeah. Well, that's a that's a pretty good look at your
Mm-hmm.
first impressions on the phone. And you know big thanks to Ruth for letting you play around with it
Oh
for a
yeah,
few days. And can't wait to see what you do with your 13 Pro Max when you get it. And I think we'll call it a day there. And
sounds good.
um, you know, save a little bit for the next time when
Oh
we
yeah.
hopefully can talk about your new phone. When did you say it was coming again?
It is scheduled for October 18th. So
Okay, so
it
we'll probably have a
probably,
show in between yet.
yeah. Now maybe
Maybe
Apple,
the next show we can talk
maybe it'll
about
be really
iOS
nice.
15.
Yeah, maybe
Oh
Apple will
yeah,
be.
maybe.
I know that it's not the first week, but when later weeks happen, Apple very smartly says, "Oh, we're going to give you your phone on the 18th to 22nd," but they know there's a good chance they can get it earlier.
Well, you know what? I did see somebody on, I think it was Twitter maybe, that said their phone was supposed to come like 2 weeks down the road,
Mm-hmm.
and they got it that day.
Oh wow.
Not the day, not opening day, or not the day they were to be released or whatever, but the day that they were tweeting this out. They were
Yeah.
expecting it in like a couple of weeks, and you know they happened to get it on that day, so they were pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So um
Unfortunately, it's still showing the 19th through the 26th.
yeah.
So
Okay.
probably not that next show. Probably not the next show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe the next show we could do a little iOS 15 stuff that
Mm-hmm.
when it comes with that relates to photography. So, and we're not going to certainly not going to cover the whole operating system, but
Oh no.
but well, thanks for all that input, Dave.
Oh yeah.
And again, thanks to Ruth for letting you play
Mm-hmm.
around with it. And I'm sure you're not done yet.
Oh no. Oh no.
So, um, well, I guess we'll call it a night then, and tell everybody where they could find you.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as ProfPod. On the Artful iPhoneography MeWe group as Dave Podner, and on Facebook as Dave Podner Jr.
All right. And you can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo, and Twitter, Macmillan_photo. And on the Artful iPhoneography community. that's a mouthful, especially when you don't say it very often. But yeah, I'll be on there, and uh, on the Tiny Shutter Facebook group, and even on the Bloody Legends Facebook group for Shane Moston. And something else I'd like to plug is uh, Mike James from Smartphone Photography Training has a like a forum over there, where it's just starting to grow a little bit, but it's some pretty decent stuff, and you can get there with smartphonephotography.club, and you'll find me over there. And I mean, I don't expect everybody to go everywhere, not as much as I do. I kind of spread myself a little thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still on Vero, that social media app Vero
Okay. Yeah.
that I was talking about way back in the Tiny Shutter days, and I posted there for the first time probably in almost a year, just the other day, and people were, oh, welcome back, and all this stuff. So I mean,
Oh, wow. That's good.
it's a good community in and of itself too. So I mean, there's all kinds of places that you can find this stuff. So but I just happen to try a little bit of everything and kind of dip my toes in a lot of different waters. But yeah, so that's it for this one. And probably hopefully you'll get your phone before the next show. But if not, maybe we'll just, if nothing else, if we can't think of anything else to talk about, we'll definitely cover some of the stuff in iOS 15.
Most definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So alrighty then. Well, thanks again,
Sounds
Dave.
good. Sounds good, Greg.
We'll have a good one, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good. Have a great week, everyone.
Okay.